Hey guys, we are heading to the Cedar Island Ferry to go across to Ocracoke, and then we've got a little bit of a trip to get to Hatteras Island, so we are on our way. Girls want to say anything?
We're totally excited because tomorrow's Sissy's birthday and she's going to be 7. Actually, today's my birthday party.
No. Tonight is her beach birthday party. We're having steak tacos, but it's not her birthday. Not until the 29th, right?
Yeah.
29th. So we are in line, getting ready to get on the ferry. We almost didn't make it. There was one spot left, and we pulled up right as a bunch of other cars came, and the lady at the window said, "I can take that truck." Ooh, who's in that truck? We in that truck. We in that truck. So we made it finally. So it's gonna be they said a late start. The last ferry comes back at 9. So if we're not done with the video by 4 o'clock, then we have to stay till 9, which is okay. Well, no, it's not, because we've got a birthday party tonight. We will make it work.
We can drive back before the ferry gets there.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour drive, but we got our tickets. Yeah. This little child thinks she can beat me in checkers. So far, she's doing pretty good. Or even. Alright. Whose turn is it?
Yours, because I was right.
Okay. Go ahead.
Where'd you move?
Should have been paying attention. Okay, I officially don't like this kid. She's got me in a position. If I move here... Wait, that's hers. If I move... Ooh, I could move here.
Nope.
Hold on.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
Oh, yeah.
I'll move there.
Cheeto, pumpkin eater.
Okay.
Kind of like, but
Alright, stop.
big head.
Okay, so now she's got me even more trapped. I move this one here. She can jump me. Oh, no, I can move here. I'm good for now. I'm just gonna keep moving back and forth. Go ahead.
Oh.
No more. Okay.
She moved.
She moved? Okay, I'm just gonna kill myself. After an intense game of checkers with my 6-year-old daughter, we didn't get to finish it because I was saved by the ferry. I was just kamikazing myself at this point, but we are now loading up on the ferry. So we're just sitting here for now, but we'll get going. Hey guys, we just got on the ferry. We're getting ready to head to Ocracoke Island. This is going to be like a 2.25 hour ferry ride. We're going to explore the deck once we're released from our vehicles, and so after we get to Hatteras Island, we're going to meet up with Ken Randell. He is the beekeeper, also known as Island Homesteader. If you want to check out his Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, definitely his YouTube channel. He's got a really good YouTube channel going, and he's been gracious enough to help me get this video done. Okay. So, anyway, enjoy it. It's raining. here at the island, Hatteras Island, and we don't have very good weather. We're going to do the interview with Ken and probably call it a day. It's been a long trip. Ken's agreed to let us use as much of the footage on his YouTube channel as we wanted to, so that's good. And again, check out his YouTube channel. It's really, really awesome. Island Homesteader. I'll leave a link in the description.
My name is Ken Randell, and I'm a beekeeper on Hatteras Island. I have 10 hives right now.
10 hives.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the most of anybody I know on the island. Most people have a couple. I have one 8-frame hive I'm experimenting with this year just because somebody gave me the box. So I'm trying them just to see how they work. But everything else is 10 frames. And I usually run, a couple of my hives are all medium boxes. And most of them are a combination. I run like a deep and a medium is what I run for brood, and then medium boxes for supers on top of that. And I've experimented, you know, I've tried, I've made a couple get it through the winter with just a single deep box, but I don't think a single deep isn't quite big enough for us here, because we actually, it doesn't get cold enough here for the bees to just huddle up in the hive and not do anything, but it's warm enough where they're flying all winter long, but obviously they're not bringing anything in.
Right.
So I have to make sure I actually have more honey on my hives than, say, somebody where it gets really cold all winter long. So they need a little, and the queen lays all winter. My queens lay all winter long. Now they reduce, obviously, their laying, but they lay all winter long, so they have to have room all winter long to have honey stores and have room for the queen to lay in. I've had them swarm. One of my hives over there is a cutout I did last year or the year before, and again I got pictures of all of that, and they came from my hive.
Oh, okay.
It was a house about 300 yards past it. Luckily, it was somebody I knew really well, so they just called and said, "Hey, we got bees in our house." Yeah, I didn't realize that hive was swarming before. But as soon as they called me, and I went over there and looked, because I always want to go look. Of course, I'm sure everybody does that. I don't just show it with all my equipment. I want to make sure it's honeybees. So I drove over there as soon as he called me, and I saw them flying in and out. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, those are bees. I'll come back tomorrow and work on it." It was too late that day. So I only had a few hives over here then, so I would go there real quick and started pulling through them, and sure enough, one of them I could tell had just swarmed. I'm like, "Oh man, missed it." Yeah. We just buy our packages from whatever local producer or supplier is going to be handling for us. Usually it involves being hours away from here. The first time I ever got bees, I drove all the way to Goldsboro, which is a 4-hour drive from here. So, and well, anything for us is a drive, but we got them. Our club usually generates a list of people who want them, and then we organize a pickup. So one person from the club will drive off somewhere and bring everybody's bees back. So the time I drove 4 hours away, I came back with I don't know, I had like 30 packages in the back of our Suburban.
Oh wow!
Drove them 4 hours back here. Yeah, nobody in my family would go with me. I was by myself. Nobody else would get.
Nobody would.
No, they made me go by myself.
Any escapees in that?
We had a few loose ones, but no big deal. Yeah, the guy we got them from, he was a really nice guy. He doesn't do packages anymore, but he was actually the state president of the North Carolina Beekeepers Association, and he knew how far I was driving. So we did a really careful job, and we picked every package up. We vacuumed all the loose bees off, and tried to get them all so that we wouldn't put any loose bees in the Suburban. But just having the back of the Suburban open, a few flew in. I prefer to leave mine in full sun. I think it just seems like from some of the stuff I've read that a warmer hive is easier for them to also manage varroa in.
Okay.
So I've just gone with that policy and just let them be. And I keep screen bottom boards on mine year round. I never close the screens up. And all my hives have, well, not all of them, most of them have top entrances. Some of them I'm experimenting with cloth inner covers this year on a few of them, just to try to see how they're doing with that. Okay. So they would be the only ones that don't have a top entrance. So me and the guy I do cutouts with, he had found some material, and it's not quite heavy enough. We kind of like the idea of it, because again, more reading I've done tends to indicate that a natural hive is a lot hotter than we keep it. They don't ventilate it near as much as we provide them with. So I was trying to top cover for that. We were looking for some heavier canvas material and just haven't found the right material yet. Actually, this year in 5 years was the first time I produced enough to sell.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a nice area because we're isolated, so I don't think we deal with a lot of other stuff. But along with that, they don't have a lot of source of nectar here. It's just whatever they can get a hold of. And weather here really hurts us. Like last year, we had the rain like you're seeing right now. We had that for about a month all through the spring, and they just couldn't forage anything.
Oh, wow.
The whole spring.
Did you feed them?
So, I had to feed a few of them. Yeah, a few of them still had enough stores from winter time. So, and I'm super conservative with what I leave in the hive. I probably leave too much, and a lot of times what I will do is in the springtime I'll go in and take out what extra they have from wintertime if they didn't use it. Leave them enough to get them started, and then I'll take it out from there. So. I like my honey the best. Of course, I'm sure every beekeeper says that, but I think my honey tastes a lot different.
Awesome.
So yeah, it has a more complex flavor, and my honey's dark. It always has been dark every year. It's always been a real dark honey, and to me that darker honey tastes better anyway. So, but it's a much more complex flavor. I think it's not just, it's sweet. It's really sweet, but it's also got flavor to it. So much more so than like clover honey you buy in a grocery store or something. I've only extracted one time. I extracted 13 medium frames, and they weren't fully drawn, and I had about 4 gallons out of that.
Oh, wow.
So I used to crush and strain. I just got an extractor this year, so it's the first time. When I started with all foundationless. I did the whole Michael Bush, all medium boxes, all foundationless. He's the one I had most of my information from. I had read everything on his website, had watched a bunch of YouTube videos from him speaking somewhere. So when I started, that was the model I started with. All medium boxes, all foundationless, and then over the first couple of years of beekeeping, I decided this is just too much trouble. They don't draw straight, and the medium boxes just weren't big enough, I didn't think, so I just started using foundation and deeps at that point.
Okay.
But this year somebody gave me an old 2-frame hand crack extractor, so I started using that. 2017 I won our Bee Club's People's Choice Award for Best Tasting Honey.
Oh, really?
And that was crush and strain, and that's what everybody else asked, because everybody else's was extracted and mine was crush and strain, so I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. Yeah, every year in November they do a potluck dinner, and they do a honey judging contest, and they actually bring that year they brought 3 people in. One was the state president of the North Carolina Association of Beekeepers, somebody else that had done professional honey judging, and then a local chef. And they did whatever the procedure is they do. You know, they check the sugar content and particles, and I don't know, they bring this equipment in to do. And then they do a People's Choice Award where they just put all the honey out, everybody walks by and tastes it. And there was 14 or 15 people there voting, and I had like 70% of the votes for People's Choice, but was one of the lowest in the other judging. Everybody liked mine, the taste of mine, except for those guys, the 3 of them, 2 of those didn't like the flavor. The professional chef liked the flavor, but the 2 other judges didn't like the flavor of mine, and they didn't like the color because it's dark. I mean, it's a lot of just wildflower. We have, there's no commercial crops anywhere on the whole 60-mile island. So it's all strictly wildflowers and whatever native trees. I don't know that we have much down here. There's a holly bush called Yopon holly. It's a very coastal holly bush, and that produces a lot of nectar for them. I've seen them on, I got a palm tree in our front yard, and any palm tree I ever see bloom is loaded with honeybees. They apparently really love the palm trees. So any palm trees that blooms they're on. There was a regular American holly just down the road from us, and when it bloomed this spring, that tree was alive with bumblebees and my honeybees. So it's just anything like that they can find, but it's mainly I just consider it a wildflower honey. Okay. When the blackberries are blooming in the spring, they're loaded with bees and any of those flowers like that. And then in the fall, we don't get a goldenrod bloom like everybody else does, but we do get some goldenrod in the fall. Okay. So, and they're foraging something right now. They're bringing fresh nectar in right now. When I see everybody else on Facebook having to feed, I think there's just enough stuff So in there's a state forest just right up the road, so mine can forage in a state forest area. So whatever's going on in there, they can get to. The national seashore is just within their forage range too. So so those woods are just left alone. So whatever's going on back there, they can get to that. I typically let them handle that on their own.
Okay.
Yeah, unless I see a queen that obviously has a problem, then I'll go ahead and get rid of her and replace her.
Right.
All I do is I try to make sure they're in as high ground as possible, because I have had them flood before. So I try to make sure they're as high ground as possible. Most of mine, where I've got them now, are sitting on cinder blocks that are stacked a couple high, and I run a ratchet strap through the cinder blocks and over the hive, and that's the way I keep them all the time. And the only thing different I do when a hurricane comes is that I put a couple cinder blocks on top of the hive and run the ratchet strap through them. So it's a couple 100 pounds sitting there that would have to all blow over at one time. I don't know that I've ever seen any difference in their behavior prior to a hurricane.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've seen them right up to the day before a hurricane out foraging and just acting like normal bees. No more aggressive or anything when I've gone into them. I've been in them the day before a hurricane hit us, securing them and just making sure everything was okay before I put them away for the storms. I had 4 in the yard that flooded, and 3 came up. At that time, I think I was keeping all medium boxes, and 3 of them were on a stand. 3 of them were on a stand 18 inches off the ground. The top of the stand was 18 inches off the ground. They were on a 4-inch bottom board, and they flooded about midway into the bottom box. So the bottom entrance was completely covered. I had kept the top entrance open, so they were able to get out if they needed to. But then the one I had on the ground, and it flooded to where the only thing out of the water was the top entrance.
Oh wow.
So, and I'm surprised that one didn't turn over, because it only had like 3 bricks on top. It was all that was holding it down.
And did that hive survive?
That hive did not survive.
Did not survive.
No, it didn't. It lasted a couple of weeks, but then they died out after that. So.
Okay.
Because there's we're surrounded by water, so we have a lot of mosquitoes. But luckily, the county mosquito control department are very pro-bee friendly. So if they find out you have beehives, they'll put you on a list where they don't spray your property. Because they drive through at night with a truck with a big aerosol sprayer on the back, and it just general sprays. But if you're on the no spray list, they cut it off like 600 feet before your property.
Oh, that's
and don't
nice.
spray your property. So they're pretty cool about
Yeah.
that. Which has generated some problems where I used to have. I think I commented to somebody on that post on the Virginia Beekeepers group. Somebody said something about they were coming down to the subdivision right across the street is where they were coming, and said that they had a beekeeper across the canal from them. Yeah, so when I had them over there and they didn't spray over there, actually, and some of this I didn't find out right away, I found out later on from other people, but there was one lady that lived across the street from me that called the mosquito company or the mosquito control group at least once a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, complaining because they didn't spray. And I had a lady one time, not even on our street, she was on the next street behind the next canal over, and a storm had come through, and it didn't do anything here but rain. The storm stayed offshore, and it rained for several days, and the mosquitoes got really bad after that. And I got a phone call one day from a guy at the mosquito office, and he said, man, I said, I'm sorry to hear that your bees had a problem in the storm and didn't make it. I said, what are you talking about? My bees are fine. And he said, well, this lady called and said all of your bees died in the storm and it was okay for us to come spray in the neighborhood now. So I got more to talking to him, and sure enough, this lady had called and said, look, the mosquitoes are terrible down here. His bees have all died, so please bring the trucks and spray the neighborhood. He was actually relieved to find out that nothing had happened to my bees. And that lady got a call the next day from the supervisor of that office explaining the situation to her. And apparently she never called back and complained again. Well, obviously we live on an island, and I kind of like to live with somewhat of a homesteader mentality. We try to grow as much food as we can. do as much stuff for ourselves as we can, make our own soap, laundry detergent at times, stuff like that. So it's just a mentality, I kind of think. That's all I do mine on.
Really?
So.
What's your oldest hive?
That one in the corner over there with the 4 boxes, the 2 sleepers. It's probably that one and that 3 medium box one right there are my 2 oldest hives.
Oh, okay.
That double nuke is the trap out I did this spring. They struggled all along because they didn't come out in the trap out. So I put a frame of eggs in there. They made a queen, and then she only lasted a few weeks. And then I bought a queen. Well, actually, a lady from the beach that's just started queen rearing this year, she gave me a queen. So I put her in there. She's still in there, but she's just not laying very well.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if she didn't get mated very well or what the deal was. So that one was a trap out from this spring. The one over there with the 3 boxes, the 1 super, that was a cutout I did right up the road here that swarmed out of that hive, that 3-box medium hive last year. So let's see. That middle hive was a new package this year, and that one down there on the corner with the yellow super on it was a package, because I bought 5 packages last year. The beads that are painted blue, all of those were bought with a grant from North Carolina last year.
Oh.
They did a matching grant. They only funded it for like $25,000. I got 5 of it.
Oh, that's good.
So they opened the application process one day at like 8 a.m. and at like 8:20 a.m. in the morning, the application process had shut down. They didn't do with bees. They didn't pay for bees. All they paid for is the equipment. And you have to promise to keep that equipment in good order for 5 years.
That's neat. Even in the rain? Wow, there's...
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm getting eaten by the mosquitoes.
Yeah, mosquitoes are terrible down here. I set 2 cinder blocks up top and run those straps through the cinder blocks on top as well as the ones on the bottom.
Okay.
And they set right here last year through our hurricane last year. So